Good day. Instead of getting a haircut, I went to Treehouse recently and got my hands on a bunch of green, which I'd never had before. And I'm going to do something which I've never done today. I'm going to do a side-by-side tasting with Vicinity from Trillium. And you might be like, oh, wait a minute, Vicinity is a double IPA, but these are very close in alcohol content. This is 7.5 and this is 8. And they both use Australian and American hops. They don't disclose them in green, but I'm pretty sure it's probably Galaxy and maybe Citra. That's what it seemed like to me. And I know for sure that in Vicinity it is Galaxy and Citra. And this is one of my favorite Trillium double IPAs. And the really cool thing why I'm doing this is that they were both canned yesterday. So that's, I feel like, a very fair tasting, even though Vicinity is a little bit stronger. It's still a kind of lighter, sweeter double IPA, in my opinion. And I don't think it'll be unfair to have these guys face off. But since I've never done a review of green before, and only had a little bit of a taste of it yesterday, I'm going to start with a longer review of it. And yeah, they do say it's a cross-continental IPA. And both of these beers are advertised by the brewery as being, very tropical. That's the first descriptor they use to describe them on their little blurb on the website. And of course they use similar yeasts, but I find that Treehouse's beers seem a little less bitter and have a little bit of a riper fruity, like stone fruit quality to them perhaps. And they look very similar. This one, yeah, super hazy and looks like a beautiful, hazy, juicy New England IPA. I feel like the head is often has a little bit more attention in the Treehouse beers, but I've only had a few. Sometimes Trilliums don't have the greatest head retention. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's Galaxy in here. It's got those like white winey notes. Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of white wine in this nose actually. Mixed with, tropical fruits. It smells like a sort of white sangria with lots of tropical fruits thrown in, pineapple juice mixed with fruitier white wine. And just some hints of sort of peaches and syrup in there too from the yeast. And that's a little bit of this sort of minty pepper sort of thing that I noticed from the Australian hops a lot. But very little vegetal dank qualities in this one. When I've had Doppelganger, I got that also at Treehouse yesterday, and that one is way danker, much more like weed and, onion, garlicky, that sort of thing. Not too much, but this is really clean and fruity. And there's just a hint of some sort of like fresh grain, fresh malt in there. And not like, an explosive aroma, but very strong and extremely pleasant. There's nothing harsh about that. Really soft, creamy body. Yeah, it's got, immediately it tastes like orange julius. It's creamy, vanilla, orange, mandarin. Yeah, that sort of vanilla frosting thing I get, but I feel like with this it's especially got like overripe fruits in it. That's what I feel like the Treehouse yeast really does. It makes everything seem like it's almost about to rot. That kind of fruitiness, and really sweet and very little bitterness too. It's probably in part by their yeast, but also just the way that they kettle hop and stuff. But that's really nice, and it's so pleasant. There's nothing harsh in the finish. Even I remember with Doppelganger last night, I was having it after, drinking quite a bit. I made a long trip throughout Massachusetts, and that Doppelganger at the end of the night just, it was not like overkill. Like Treehouse's beers are so pleasant and easy to drink. And the feel on the tongue is so nice. It's just like, it's not toasty, but yeah, that's like a Honey Nut Cheerios malt thing, and a a really unique tinge from the yeast that I can't quite put my finger on. It's like almost nutty, I guess I would say. Like really ripe fruits and some kind of, I don't know, walnut or almondy thing is happening in there from the yeast, I feel like maybe. But it's really nice. The 7.5% is, I'm not noticing much heat at all. There's no astringent burn in the back of my throat or anything. They've been making this beer, you know, for almost 4 years now, and it's really great. I'm very glad that they canned this, because I'd had Doppelganger before, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. But this is definitely my style IPA. I feel like it's almost, you know, it's pretty similar to Congress Street from Trillium, which I love a lot. Doing a side-by-side of this and that Congress Street would have been better, but this is really nice. And as long as you like their yeast strain, you'll love these Treehouse beers. I don't get many weird off flavors. I don't get too much vegetal notes. I don't get too much plasticky sort of thing is going on. I feel like it's somewhere in between Trillium and the Alchemist, because the Alchemist is really nutty, biscuity, and peachy, stone fruity, and then Trillium is more, it brings out some more bitter elements, and it's a little bit more on the tart tropical fruit side. But maybe we should open this can and see how it is. And they don't say the malt bill for the Treehouse beer, of course, but I think it's pretty simple, and this one's pretty simple too. It's like most of Trillium's IPAs. At least their double IPAs use Pilsner malt and like wheat malt. There's no specialty grains in this one. Let's see if we can compare the way they look. Wow, really similar, even if I switch them. Yeah, that's kind of amazing. And you see the head didn't build up a whole bunch, but this is not the best glass for head retention for the Trillium. But the last few batches of Vicinity have been really great. I had a batch last September that I was kind of unimpressed with. The last few I've loved. Oh yeah. Ooh, there's definitely some danker, weedier sort of elements in this one that is not in the green at all. And I'm getting a little, very slight spice, but there's a little bit of an oniony sort of thing happening. On top of, yep, lots of really juicy tropical fruit. Yeah, this one I've noticed to be really tropical and juicy when I've had it recently. Let's compare the aromas here. Well, quite different. This one I get a lot more fresh malted barley, like that actual aroma that I smell from Treehouse when I was there, and they're, you know, boiling, they're mashing their grains. I get that in here a lot. And I also noticed that in Hill Farmstead. I had one of their pale ales yesterday, and that had that smell that was just, it smelled like they were, you know, not malting barley, but mashing the grains. But with this Trillium beer, I don't get that. Like nearly at all. It's all yeast and hop aroma. And there's a sweeter, more candy-ish element, I feel like, maybe to this Trillium beers. It has, in the nose, it's almost like cotton candy and bubble gum. Taffy, which I've used these descriptors a lot, but probably mostly for Trillium beers. Yeah, it's got a lot of candy-ish elements, whereas I guess the Treehouse, it's grainy and it's really ripe fruit, and really light on the dankness, at least for this one. Well, this has so many sweet candy aromas and smells. Same thing, I guess. Like Smarties, but then there's just a tinge of that dank quality happening in here that's not really in green at all. Definitely sweeter, a little more full body, but maybe not quite as soft as green. That's really nice though. And the sweet candy flavors carry through. It's almost like just a few, you know, canned pineapple chunks mixed in with, you know, marshmallow fruit salad and, you know, mandarin orange tidbits. That's really what this has. And then maybe it's a sprinkling of weed on top. And that packs a little bit bitterness in there, but this one, Vicinity especially, is not too big on the bitterness. A lot of sweetness, I feel like, in this one. I think they could have, fermented it a little bit more and gotten the alcohol a little higher, but then I might not like it quite as much. I like dry pale ales, but I think with 8% double IPAs, I'm like, yeah, keep it 8%. Don't bring it to 8.5 or 9, because then it's just going to be too boozy and bitter, not enough sweetness to bring out the fruit. Let's compare it to the flavor of this one. Yeah, the aromas are quite different. This is way mintier. It almost smells like mint gum, as opposed to this one being like cotton candy bubble gum. Yeah, this is way mintier and maltier. But the feel on the tongue is just effortless. I mean, it is lower alcohol, but it's definitely lower alcohol, lower bitterness, and it's a little less sweet in Vicinity. And quite a bit sweet. And it has, sometimes I don't like this minty aftertaste. It overwhelms my mouth as if I just were chewing on some mint leaves and some herbs and some hot pellets. But with this, it's pleasant. It gets in my palate and kind of overtakes my face. But it doesn't end up being too bitter and too earthy. And I guess green is actually, I'm noticing the greenness to this one right now. Though it lacks the dank, oniony, greeny quality in this, it's like really hard to pin down what exactly green and dank means in these hoppy beers. But I think I'm figuring out sort of. And yeah, I wonder if maybe they don't use Galaxy hops in this one. I'll just see if anyone has been able to figure it out or glean it from the brewery. But these are pretty different beers. A lot of it, I think, is house character and just kind of what they're going for with the beer. But this one is very pleasant. It'll hit you with greenness, but it won't be the normal kind of dank that you're used to with American hops that we have in this one. It's probably a lot of that dankness is coming from the Citra they use in this. And they did also just have a Fort Point, their Citra Pale Ale from Trillium. That one had some dankness to it like this. But then their yeast strain and all the sweet unfermented malt they leave in this beer makes it just so much more like candy than the Treehouse. They're both really great though. And this has a sharper, more astringent feel to it. A little bit more tart seeming almost. And it's not that the green doesn't have its own bitterness, but there's something that's a little bit, I don't know, chalkier maybe in the feel, even though they both have so much haze, and a lot of that sediment can add some chalky flavors and characters. Now I'm feeling like the haze, that you might not be able to see, is a little bit oranger than the Trillium. You might be able to tell. But they are pretty similar. I think the thickness of the glasses at this point are about the same. And it might just be, yeah, the way they mash the grain in the Treehouse, but I guess I'm not going to rate them. I love them both. Oh wait, they do say Galaxy hop-filled IPA on the back of this. Ha! So I was right, it is Galaxy. So they do have Galaxy in both of these. I think this one features Galaxy kind of maybe more prominently, and they just use some American hops for earlier in the kettle or something. But I'll try. Hopefully, I can get a fresh Congress Street to compare with this one. Might be a little more proper of a comparison, even if they're canned a week apart or something. But I can't say which one I like more. I guess I love this. Right now, I'm enjoying the green because it's just a softer experience, and I'm not as much into the in-your-face hoppy beers, even if they are still New England style. There are still in-your-face hoppy beers out there where it's like, yeah, it's high octane, I get it. But it's all about a really, really pleasant drinking experience. I don't want to say easy drinking or crushable, but overall pleasant. All the elements are working together. I don't want to say balance either. It just has to be everything put together in a way that is super pleasant on your tongue. I guess that's done for the video. I give green 15 bags of popcorn.